Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see all of you here at this session, and I'm happy to become a speaker at this wonderful event. At this session, we'll talk about site initializers and content setup. This session will be split into 3 parts. In the first one, we'll have an overview of different approaches for content setup. The second one will be a site initializer workshop, and during this workshop, we'll build a simple website and integrate it with site initializer. And finally, we will have a short summary and overview of the next steps. In the left bottom corner, you can see a repository link with workshop materials, so feel free to download it and install a clean Liferay bundle before we reach the second part. Also, you can use this QR code to scan and to install the Liferay repository. I'll leave it open for a couple of seconds so you can scan if you want. But the repository link will be here on slides as well, so you can use it. And now, before we move to site initializers, I would like to talk in general about content setup and promotion based on my own experience. So let's start from the beginning. My very first Liferay project was pretty much connected to content setup. It was a digital newspaper based on Liferay 5, and it had a lot of pages and content. The pages had very complex structure with custom multi-column layouts and different sections on each page, like you can imagine in a physical newspaper. And I had to work on all this content setup. It was quite a time-consuming process, and for me the most annoying part was that I had to repeat the same content setup steps locally and also on remote server. And that was actually the moment when I realized that content setup process should be automated. At that moment, I didn't know how to do it in a proper way, and a genius idea came to my mind. So I changed the process into the following way. Every morning, I made a fresh database dump from remote server. Then I worked locally on all required content configuration, and when I was done, I just deployed and uploaded back updated database dump. So everything worked fine. I saved around 2 hours per day and optimized process, everything except this was a production server. And of course, after some period of time, customers started complaining about strange issues happening to his server, like randomly disappearing users or content. I had to come back to previous approach and started looking for new ways for content setup. On one of the next projects, I started using LAR files. The things became better, at least I was no longer removing production database, but even with LAR files, I faced several issues. First of all, performance was very slow. To import or export the LAR file, it usually took for me several hours. Also, LAR files were very fragile, they failed on first error, and the errors were not very meaningful for me. And for me, LAR file was like a black box, so I could import something or export something without clear knowing what is inside. And as a developer, I was looking for a new content as code approach for content setup to have a better control on the content we promote. And finally, I found this tool, and it was Resource Importer. It was a nice tool for Liferay 6, where we could define our content in special content descriptors and deploy our code together with Liferay themes. It was a nice tool for Liferay 6, but in Liferay 7 it became deprecated and later on completely removed from the product. So the only reason why I highlight it separately is that it had a very similar concept to current implementation of site initializers. Later on, for Liferay 7, we decided to implement our custom solution for content setup, and we called it Portal Initializer. It also had similar concept to site initializers, and we invested quite a lot of time and resources into building this tool. It was working fine for Liferay 7.0, but once Liferay 7.1 was released, we had to invest again a lot of time due to significant changes in Liferay APIs. When Liferay 7.2 was released, we decided to upgrade it one more time, but when Liferay 7.3 released, we decided not to support it anymore due to continuous problems with maintenance and Liferay upgrades. Also, we used different extension points for content setup, such as model listeners, activators, upgrade steps, and so on. With this approach, we could define our content in our project, we could promote our content with regular deployments, and we could also define project-specific content initialization logic. But on the other hand, we had to copy the same code from project to project, and it was hard to maintain such code and perform Liferay upgrades. Finally, site initializers appeared. At the beginning, site initializer was just an extension point which we as developer could use, but we still had to write our own code for content initialization. Later on, bundle site initializer was introduced, and this was exactly the feature I was looking for. With bundle site initializer, we could define our content in special content descriptors. We could put these descriptors to project to enable Git history. And also we could define different content types, and we didn't need any custom code for content initialization. But at the beginning, bundle site initializer was used only internally by Liferay, and it was not documented at all. I found this feature around 2 years ago. I played around it and used it on several projects. Then I wrote a Liferay blog on Liferay Dev, which became unofficial documentation on this feature. Also, I requested update support for site initializer, and later on it was also implemented in Liferay. So that was my story as a Liferay developer in terms of content setup. And now let's see in action what we can do with site initializer. So it's time for demo. By the way, did anybody download the repository already? Yeah, so let's proceed. Just 1 moment. Let me see. Okay. In the repository here, you can see 3 links: the workshop, complete example, and references. So for this workshop, we need the first workshop link. And here you see a list of steps which we are going to perform during the session. At least we will try to perform them, if time allows, of course. But first, let me explain the site which we are going to build during this session. During this session, we are going to build a site similar to official Devcon website. I think each of you have already visited the site at least once, but if not, you can check it out now. So this is Liferay Devcon website, and we will focus on this home page and also on speakers page. As you see, these pages have a little bit different structure, so we will implement 2 different master pages for them. Also for home page, we will implement a couple of fragments and web contents, and for home page, we will display a collection of objects. Just 1 moment. Okay, and now let's proceed. So this was an overview of the site which we are going to build. And now let's proceed with the model implementation for our site initializer. In the project, you can see already a baseline for our site initializer model, which is basically a typical IHI model, but with 2 additional properties in one bundle descriptor. So the first one is provide capability to make sure that our IHI bundle is site initializer, and the second one is to define the name for our site initializer. Now let me deploy this model as is. By the way, besides this, it also contains a thumbnail image for site initializer and also the site initializer folder where we will put our content descriptors later on. So my model is deployed. I can go to list of sites. And now, when I create a new site, you should be able to see our site initializer in the list of templates. So I can create a site from our site initializer. You see site is created, but for now it does not have any content because we didn't define any content yet. But we can do it in next exercise. And first of all, we can define content for our layout set configuration. And by doing this, we can define common theme settings and the theme for all the pages in our site. For this, I'll copy from exercise to this layout set folder to site initializer. Let me redeploy and show you what we have here. Here we have layout set folder to define layout set configuration. As we define a public layout set configuration, we have this public folder and metadata JSON where we define theme settings. So we specify that our pages should use dialect theme and specific theme settings. Particularly here, we disable footer and header for our pages. Now I deployed these changes, but if you go to pages and check configuration, you see that these changes are not applied automatically. But if I go to sites and recreate a site, let me do it. So first I delete the site and then create it again. Now, if I go to Site Builder Pages and Pages Configuration, you can see that all of the settings applied. It uses dialect sim, correct sim settings, and also this image defined in Site Initializer. But I think you noticed one strange thing. To apply these changes, I had to recreate the site. And it is not the proper way for doing it. It would be better if these changes would be propagated automatically. And there is this feature in Liferay already for update support, but it's hidden under a feature flag, so we need to enable it. For this, we can go to Instance Settings, and in Feature Flags, in Developer tab, we can search for this feature for site initializers, and here we can enable support for our site initializers. And after we enable this feature, the changes from site initializers can be propagated to our site. But as long as we created this site before this, it's not applicable for this site, so I'll remove it and create again. And now, in this site, if you go to Publishing and Site Initializer, you can see the Synchronize button, and when you synchronize changes from Site Initializer model should be applied for your site. So we did this basic setup, and now we can start working on preparing content and pages for our site. But before that, we need to think about important things such as styling and branding. Specifically, how and where we define styles for our site to ensure we have consistent design across all the pages in our site. And for this, we also have several ways to do it. We could use custom theme approach and the old school way for doing it. We could use also custom CSS with inline styling inside the layout set. But there is a better way for doing it, called client extension. And let's do it. So I have also this prepared Devcon site initializer sim CSS. I'll deploy it and explain what we have here. In this sim CSS client extension, you can see in configurations that this is sim CSS client extension. We have basic styling for our components, such as buttons, typography, or navigation. And also we have custom front-end token definition, which will be also used in custom style books later on. So for now, I just deployed this sim CSS client extension. And if I go to my pages again, in layout set configuration, here you can see sim CSS client extension section, and you can install this Devcon site initializer sim CSS here for our pages. For our sim CSS client extension, you see we defined this front-end token definition. In this front-end token definition, we define front-end tokens, appropriate CSS variables, and default values. But what if we need to customize these values and define specific values for these tokens? In this case, we can create a custom style book. And now I'll show you how you can create a style book for your site initializer. In the next exercise, here, there is style book folder, which you can copy to site initializer. For defining a style book, we need two configuration files. One descriptor stylebook.json, where we define style book name, passes to files, and also we can specify if it should be a default style book, which is true in our case. And also this front-end token values, where we basically define the values for our front-end tokens. Now I have included this into site initializer, so I can redeploy my model. Let me do it. And considering we already have update support for our site, I can just go to site initializer section and synchronize the changes. Let's see the logs. So it should be synchronized already. And if I go to design style books, let me check again. Style books, Devcon, deploy and synchronize. Okay, so it's synchronized. And when you go to style books, you see that our style book was created, it marked as default, and if you go inside, you can see that all the colors from style book are applied. So now we are done with basic settings for branding and styling, and we can work actually on our content setup. We can start first on master page definition, but to define master pages, we obviously need at least fragments for header and footer. And for this, let's proceed with fragment setup. So I'll copy this fragments folder from next exercise to site initializer, and we'll redeploy the module. For fragments, we need to define them inside initializer in the following way. As these are side-scoped fragments, we save them in group folder inside fragments. In collection.json, we define configuration for fragment set, name and description. Optionally, we can have some fragment resources, and we can put them to resources folder. And for each fragment, we need to create an own folder with all required configuration files for fragment. Specifically for header, we have also configuration to switch between primary and secondary variation of that header. As long as I deployed the model already, I can go to site initializer and synchronize the changes. Let's wait. And now if I go to design fragments, you can see that all the fragments are created. And as long as we have fragments created already, we can proceed with master pages definition. But before defining content for master pages, let's create master pages themselves. For this, I have prepared this layout page templates folder, which I can put to site initializer and deploy the module again. So for defining the master pages, we need to create first this layout page templates folder, and inside create a master pages folder. In the same folder, we can also define, for example, display page templates, but in our case, we have only master pages. For each master page, we need to create a separate folder, and inside the folder, two configuration files. The first one, master page JSON, where we define only the name of master page, but be sure that from this name, the master page key is also generated, which is used in other examples. And in page definition, we define two things. We define the structure of the master page here in page element. For now, it has only the drop zone. And also we define settings for our master page. Specifically here, we associate our master page with style book, which we already deployed, with client extension, previously deployed as well. And also we can define theme settings like we did for layout set. Now I deploy this master page configuration. And if I synchronize changes with site initializer again, let me do it. Now I can go to design page templates, and you can see that both master pages created. If you go inside, you see that there is no content yet, but it's normal because we didn't define any content for our master pages yet. And now we will define our content for master pages. Let me switch to the next exercise, to master page content. As I told before, the structure of master page is defined here in page elements, in page definition JSON. So to define additional elements for master page, you just need to literally edit this JSON and add additional elements to this JSON file. For this, I have already prepared examples, so I have copied it here to site initializer folder, and we'll redeploy. And we'll explain what we have here. In updated version of page definition JSON for homepage, you can see that we have more elements now. For example, we have this Devcon header here. Also, we have page wrapper with drop zone inside, and also we have Devcon footer. So now I redeploy these changes, and if I go to site initializer and synchronize them, now, if you go to design page templates master page, you can see that all of the elements are already created here. But in this example, we created this master page definition from already prepared JSON file. But what if you need to define your own elements here in the master page definition? The structure of this JSON is quite complex to be edited manually. That's why the typical process of definition of content is the following. You define the content manually first, then you export page definition, and then you integrate it to site initializer. And for this, master pages have this export capability. So you can click export here, and in the exported zip file, you can see this page definition file, a JSON file. And usually I copy this page definition to my IDE. So let me do it. Format it a little bit. And here you will see the JSON file you need. But here you can see also additional things. You can see that some elements like site key here or site link are hard-coded. And also it has some environment-specific IDs. And to integrate this JSON definition to site initializer, you need to get rid of all this hard-coded and environment-specific data, and basically replace them with this placeholder provided by site initializer. And let me compare the file I prepared for master page and the one I just exported. Let me increase the font a little bit. And here you can see what I did. So basically I replaced the site key with this group key placeholder. Also I replaced this hard-coded friendly URL with this group friendly URL and removed this auto-generated IDs. So that is the process how you define content for master pages. Basically you need to perform the following steps. First you define a master page manually on site, then you export JSON definition, then you prepare JSON to get rid of hard-coded elements and replace them with placeholders, and finally you integrate this JSON to your site initializer. Now, as long as we have master pages, we can proceed with pages definition. And in the same way, like with master pages, let's create pages first, and then we will define some content for them. So I'll copy this layout folder to my site initializer. In this layouts folder, we define layouts. And for each layout, we need to create a subfolder and two configuration files. The page JSON here, we define the layout name, friendly URL, and other configuration. And page definition is similar to master page definition, and it also has two sections, for page structure and for page settings. Page structure is empty for the moment, and for page settings, we define the master page, which we already deployed. So I redeploy this module again. Let's wait a second. I redeployed it. Now I will synchronize changes with my site initializer. And now if I go to site builder pages, you can see that all of the pages were created. Also, if I go to site, you can see that also all of the pages are displayed here in header and footer, but there are two issues. The first one is styling issue. Styles are not appropriate according to our design. And another issue that we display all the pages, while we would like to display only specific pages, like in a regional site here, you see. And for this, we can do two things. To adjust styling, we can define our custom widget templates for site navigation. And to display specific pages, we can define our own site navigation menus. For this, you can check next exercises, widget templates, and also navigation menus. I'll do them together to speed up the process, so let me do it. I'll copy this site navigation menus and also this configuration to site initializer. And we'll redeploy changes. And as always, we'll explain what we have here. In the DDM templates, we define basically our templates, specifically widget templates. For each widget template, we need to create a subfolder here and two files. The widget template definition, DDM template JSON, where we define its name and the DDM template key, and also the free marketer template for our widget template. It's a simple widget template where we just list on our navigation menus, but also we add additional CSS class, which takes some styling from deployed SimCSS client extension. And to define site navigation menus, we need this site navigation menus JSON file, where we can basically define the navigation menus. Here we define the one for header and the one for footer. For the header, we display 3 pages, and for the footer, 2 of them. We use only layout type for our menu items, but there are also other available types inside Initializer. So I have redeployed changes, and now I can synchronize it with my site initializer again. Okay, it's synchronized. And now, if you go to Design Templates and Widget Templates, you can see that we have 2 widget templates defined here, for footer and for header. Also, if you go to Site Builder navigation menus, here you see that navigation menus created also for header and for footer. Specifically for header, we have 3 pages, for footer, we have 2 pages. So that is how you can define widget templates and site navigation for your site. The next topic is customization. Let me check. But before proceeding to customization, let me show you one experiment. So we have now created all this site with all this configuration, but let me remove this site first. I'll go here and remove the site. Let's wait until it's removed. And now let me create a site from scratch, also from Site Initializer. So I created the site, and now if you go to Site Pages, you can see 2 issues. First of all, this register button is not properly styled. If you don't see the button, it is there, believe me. And also, you can see that we still display all of the pages, even though we need to display only specific ones. And it's not because I did some mistake, missed some configuration, or missed some error in my code. It's because this configuration is not present in Site Initializer at all. And when we have some missing functionality, it's basically a trigger for some customization. Usually, Liferay provides a lot of extension points for customization where we can introduce our own code and add customization for default Liferay functionality. But it's not the case with Site Initializer. If you check this bundle Site Initializer class, you can see that this is a huge Java class, not a AGI component, and also hidden under an internal package. So it's almost not possible to customize it in this way. So we need to find some workarounds of what we can do, and actually, considering we have update support, we can customize this action for synchronizing our changes using MVC command override. And here we can invoke original action and introduce our logic before or after customization. For this, I also have prepared example, so I'll just copy this src folder to here to Site Initializer. And also, I'll copy updated templates here to Site Initializer folder. Let me redeploy it first, and also show you what we have here. In layout page templates, master templates, and page definition for master page, we have these widget menus embedded to header and footer, and for them we have specific configuration. I think you see it, yeah? So here in widget config, we have this configuration for our site navigation widget, and you can see there are some placeholders for group ID and group key, for example. But for site navigation menu ID, there is no placeholder available out of the box in Liferay. That's why I introduced my own placeholder, and then I process this information in my override. So I will not stop on the details of implementation, but here you can see what I do actually. So I invoke original command, and after that I add customization, first to link our layout set with a SimCSS client extension, and also to save correct site navigation menu to portlet preferences of site navigation. Now I have redeployed this already, or let me redeploy again. And let me recreate a site again. So I go to sites, control panel sites. I delete this site first. And now I create a site from scratch from Site Initializer. You see it's created, and let's see what happens now. If you go to pages, you can see that we still have the same issues. The same, all the pages are displayed, button is not styled because synthesis client is not associated. But if we are going to publish inside initializer and click synchronize now, you can see that our custom code is also invoked after processing. And if you come back to home page, you can see that both of issues are fixed, the register button is properly styled, and all the menus are displayed correctly. So this is one of the ways or workarounds how can you introduce your own logic into site initializing process. And now let's proceed with the next topic with definition of page content. Definition of page content is very similar to definition of master page content. So I can just copy these prepared examples from next exercise to site initializer first and explain what we have here. In the updated definition for layout set, page definition JSON, you can see that we have more elements here. For example, we have this fragment for homepage banner, also for Devcon ticket prices. So we have updated the page definition of our page. And now I redeploy my changes and will synchronize site initializer one more time. You can see it's synchronized. And now if I go to home page, refresh the page, let me check what's wrong. Let me redeploy again. Deploy. Deploy changes and let me synchronize. Okay, now if I go to site builder pages, you can see on home page that all these fragments which I defined in page definition are also here present on the page. But here is the same situation with the master page. The JSON structure is very complex and you can define it manually. So you need first to export it from site, then adjust the JSON to replace this at least hard-coded elements with some placeholders and also integrate it to site initializer. Master pages have this export capability, but for pages we don't have them. But we have another workaround for pages and I'll show it for you. If you have some page structure on your page and you have some wrapping container, like I have here, for it I can save the fragment composition. I'll give it a name and will save inline content and configuration as well. And when I save this fragment composition, I can go to fragments and export this fragment created from composition. Then I can go to this fragment composition definition. You can see the JSON you need. So you can also copy it to your IDE, format it. And here you have this JSON. So you basically need to adjust it to remove these hard-coded elements, replace them with placeholders, and then integrate back to site initializer. The only thing here, you don't need to replace the entire page definition because it's only a specific element. If you export fragment composition for the root element, so you just need to replace this section inside page elements. Otherwise, you can replace any other section in this JSON definition for your page. So this is how you can define content for your pages. And now let's proceed with the next topic, what we have here, documents. Okay, for documents, I have also prepared examples here in next section, so I'll copy them to site initializer and will deploy my module. Definition of documents is pretty simple, so you just need to define the same structure here in documents, the same structure as you want them to appear in the documents and media. So here I have two folders, gallery and venue, and specific files. And if I redeploy site initializer and synchronize my changes with site initializer, let me do it. Okay, already did. And now if you go to content and data, documents and media, let me click it. Okay, you see that folders created. And if you go, for example, to gallery, you see also this files created here. Another thing, I have updated the layout page definition here, not here, for home page. And as you see, we use also these documents on home page in fragments. And when you use these documents in Fragments, there are two ways how you can use them. You can use either fragment mapping or direct URL. If you use them like fragment mapping, you need a file entry ID for this class primary key property. And here you can use document file entry ID placeholder. But if you need direct URL, in this case, you can use this document URL placeholder and a path to your file inside Initializer. So this is how you can define documents and how you can define placeholders for your documents in page definition. So now we have defined documents and we can proceed to definition of our web content structures and templates. If we look at original website, we have this sponsors section here, and it can be represented as a collection display of structured web contents. So we can create a sponsor structure and a list of web contents from this structure. For this, I'll copy materials from next exercise. Let me do it. Okay, and let me redeploy site initializer and explain what we have here. To define a web content structure, we need to create this DDM structures folder, and inside this folder we need to define this XML file for our web content structure. In the XML file, you need to define the name and definition of your web content structure. For definition, of course, you don't need to write this JSON manually. You can create web content structure on a portal, and then you can use this definition, but use it from database, because if you export it from web content, it will not be compatible with site initializer. I don't know, maybe there are some workarounds, but I just use this JSON directly from database and it works. For the DDM templates, you can also define web content template in the same way like we did it for widget templates. The only difference is that in this JSON file, you need to define different properties, just name, DDM template, and structure key. And in FTL file, you just define the free market template for your web content. And if you need to define individual articles, you need to create the journal articles folder. In metadata JSON, you define a configuration for your journal folder, and then inside this folder, you need to create a pair of files for each web content. The first one is web content descriptor, where you have information about your web content, you see here, and also web content definition, which you can also export from the portal, but make sure if you use document links, for example, in your web content, to replace that exported JSON with this document JSON placeholder. So this is our setup. I'll redeploy it again. And let me see what we have here. If I go to site content and data web content, let me check again. So I have it here. I need to synchronize changes. I forgot. Set initializer synchronize. So it's synchronized. And now, if I go to content and data web content, you can see that structure was created, template created, and this folder with these articles created as well. And now we can use this web contents to create a collection and display this collection on the home page. For this, I can copy materials from next exercise. Let me do it. And here we have this asset list entries file, which is basically a configuration for our collection. Here we specifically define that this is collection of web contents with a sponsor structure. We also use this DDM structure ID placeholder to specify the structure ID. And we can also use this placeholder to make a sorting by a structure field. Like you see here, we sort our sponsors by sponsor type. And now we can redeploy this configuration and apply changes. So let me synchronize it again. So it's synchronized. And now if I go to home page and scroll down, you can see that here we have now a list of sponsors and also sorted by sponsor level. So with home page setup, we are done, and let's proceed with speakers page. And here we are going to display a collection of objects of speakers. For this, I'll copy materials from the last exercise. Let me do it. So I copied them already, and let me redeploy the changes. To define object definition, you need to create this object definition folder and a JSON file inside with the name of your object, label, other information, and also fields definition. Of course, you don't need to write this JSON from scratch. You can export it from your object and portal and integrate here. And for object entries definition, you need to create this object entries folder here. You need to specify a reference to your object. And you need to define object entries and to define field value for each field of your object. If you have attachment field, also you can use this document file entry placeholder. So let me deploy it again. And let me synchronize changes. Now, if I go to speakers page, let me check. It's not synchronized. Yeah, if I go to speakers page, you can see that we have a collection of speakers here, but here you can find one issue that this field for image is not mapped. And here we also have some Liferay issue with missing capability for mapping this image field of objects, because they are mapped by field ID and there is no placeholder for it. But for this, I have also some customization here, so I'll copy it here as well. And let me show you what we have here. In this definition of speakers page, you can see that I have introduced my own placeholder here. And now, if I redeploy my changes again and run synchronize. Let's wait until it's synchronized. And now if I go to speakers page, you can see that this information is already populated. Okay, if I have additional 5 minutes, I can display one more feature, okay? Okay. So in this case, we can proceed to this, let's say, bonus article here, and let me do it quickly. And I will show you the alternate approach for defining site initializers, how we can do it with client extensions. First, let me redeploy this, remove this site created from ISI-based client extension, ISI-based site initializer. And I have also prepared another type of site initializer called client extension site initializer, which is SaaS compatible. But basically it's the same, and it uses the same site initializer folder and structure as for regular site initializer. So here you can see that we have also this site initializer folder with all content descriptors. But here we have this YAML file where we define configuration for our site initializer client extension. And here, as you see, we have site name specified, which means that we don't need to create a site from site initializer, and it will be created automatically on deployment. So let me redeploy it. But this also means that this site initializer is not actually a template, it's one-to-one mapping between site initializer and site. We cannot define multiple sites from one site. And now, once it's deployed, I refresh the page, and you can see that Devcon CX is created. I can go to site pages, and you can see that everything is in place except these customizations which I did for a regular site initializer. So that was it for the demo, and let's have a quick wrap up about site initializers. First of all, when we should use them and when we should not use. According to my recommendation, we should use site initializer during the development phase of the project when we don't have any production content, and we should not use them on production environment or any other environment where we have manual content manipulations. Also, we can use site initializer for some demos or as site templates for some bigger sites. As for benefits of site initializer, I can highlight its content as code nature, ease of use, that we don't need to write any custom code for it, and some kind of standardization between different projects. As for drawbacks, I can highlight the monolith architecture of this bundle site initializer and no possibility to customize it, and also missing features and present bugs. And the most important is combination of these features. So it has some bugs and missing functionalities, but there is no clear way to introduce our customizations. And what next? Next steps. One of the next steps is client extension site initializer. I already shown it for you in action, but you can check it in more details. Also, you can check batch client extension, which is more generic set of client extensions based on batch engine framework. If you want to enable version control for content in your environment, you can use publications. And if you need to promote your content to remote environments, you can use staging as well. Also, there will be other talks about site initializers today. The first one is from Rafa Lewis about masterclass site initializer. It will be also here track A1130. And the next one is from Daniela Erdon about multi-site solutions with Liferay. It will be at 12:35 at the main stage. So that was it. Thank you for your attention.